Good evening. In the news tonight, with a March 19th deadline looming, the Vincennes City Council continues to mull over new county-wide zoning and subdivision ordinances. And Zacharias Muskowski will have to watch from his jail cell when a jury is picked for his trial's death penalty phase.
In sports, the VU Trailblazers overcame a slow start to pick up their 21st win of the season. Meanwhile, Hoosier coach Mike Davis is starting to feel the heat in Bloomington.
Newscenter 22 is next. A Vincennes City Council has yet to take any action on the county's revised zoning and subdivision control ordinances. Scott Brown, who chairs Council's Zoning and Community Development Committee, says the city wants to maintain control over certain zoning issues handled by the Vincennes Board of Zoning Appeals and the Historic Review Board. The council has 90 days, or until March 19th, to adopt the ordinances before they become law. They can offer amendments that will be revived by the Knox County Area Plan Commission before they become part of the ordinance. A vote is expected at the council's first meeting in March. Bruceville, Decker, Oaktown, and Monroe City have approved the ordinances. Vincennes and Bicknell are still reading the fine print. 13 members of the Vincennes Fire Department were recognized at last night's City Council meeting for helping with the search for survivors after a tornado struck an Evansville mobile home park last year, killing 24 people. Fire Chief Joe Yoakum was presented a plaque from the Knight Township Fire Department of Vanderburgh County thanking the local firefighters for their assistance. Each firefighter was also given a commemorative coin to remember the events of that day. Another Vincennes firefighter, Michael Langford, was honored by Vincennes Mayor Terry Mooney for his efforts in attempting to save the life of a Vincennes woman who suffered a heart attack. Langford was attending a Lincoln freshman boys basketball game in Terre Haute when a woman became ill. Langford followed the van carrying the woman back to Vincennes. She went into cardiac arrest on the trip home, and Langford attempted to revive her. However, she later died at Good Samaritan Hospital. Vincennes Mayor Terry Mooney will give his annual State of the City address next week. The mayor is scheduled to speak at noon on Tuesday in the council chambers at City Hall. A Vincennes man accused of stealing a circular saw from a job site is facing a charge of theft. Vincennes police arrested 28-year-old Jeremy Kelly after he was spotted going into a pawn shop with the stolen saw. Police say Kelly was spotted by a neighbor taking the power tool from an outside home at 1204 Ridgeway. A key state senator says he hasn't been able to reach a compromise with the Daniels administration over moving the I-step from the fall to the spring. Estimates of the cost of the move vary widely. Senator Robert Meeks fears it will be too expensive to implement this year. The Daniels administration says it could cost next to nothing to move I-step testing to the spring. Other estimates are as high as $45 million. An environmental regulator says a bill in the Indiana Senate requiring the removal of mercury-filled light switches from junked automobiles will work only if salvage yards are paid to do the job. Millions of American cars made before 2003 contain the toxic element in light switches. Mercury could seep into the ground and water when cars are crushed and melted down. Exposure to high levels of mercury can damage the brain, kidneys, and lungs. Hoosier rocker John Mellencamp will perform a free concert on Monument Circle in Indianapolis April 2nd. Mellencamp's publicist tells the Indianapolis Star that the concert will be in between the NCAA men's basketball semifinals on April 1st and the championship game on April 3rd. Still to come on Newscenter 22, economics say they're seeing signs of economic rebound, and doctors say the man who was accidentally shot by Vice President Cheney over the weekend in Texas has had a minor heart attack. Stay with us.
Expect a masterpiece.
I thought we had an agreement, Lady Deadlock.
If I wish to protect my secret.
It is not your secret any longer. It is my secret.
A web of blackmail and betrayal.
It's a friendship.
I consider our agreement to be broken. You had better beware.
Tulkinghorn. It all comes back to Tulkinghorn.
Who's there?
Bleak House by Charles Dickens on Masterpiece Theater.
The man accidentally shot by Vice President Cheney last weekend has had what doctors now call a silent heart attack. A hospital spokesman in Texas say some of the birdshot that Harry Whittington was hit with moved into his heart. Soon after the announcement in Corpus Christi, the vice president telephoned Whittington to wish him well. A White House statement said the Austin, Texas attorney has been moved back into extensive care so he can be monitored. The man who killed an 11-year-old Carly Bruscia is asking the judge to spare his life. At a sentencing hearing today in Florida, Joseph Smith apologized for the young girl's abduction and murder, but he says he's afraid the death penalty will hurt his own family. Zacharias Muskowski will have to watch from his jail cell when a jury is picked for his trial's death penalty phase. A federal judge ordered Musawi out of the courtroom after the confessed al-Qaeda conspirator defied her again with a rambling outburst. Saddam Hussein says he hasn't eaten in 3 days as a protest against his chief judge. 2 of his co-defenders also claim to be on a hunger strike. A court official says they're working to solve what he calls an administrative problem. It'll be at least 2 weeks before Saddam Hussein is back in court. His trial was adjourned today after 3 hours of testimony from 3 former members of his regime. The judge is ordering the proceedings to resume February 28th. At least 2 people are dead and 11 others are injured in what's being called the worst violence yet in Pakistan over cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. A building housing a hotel, 2 banks, a KFC restaurant, and the office of a Norwegian cell phone company have been burned down by rioters in Lahore. Western businesses have been targets, with damage reported to a Holiday Inn, a Pizza Hut, and a McDonald's. Witnesses say the protesters also damaged over 200 cars, dozens of shops, and a large portrait of President Pervez Musharraf. A senior opposition leader says there is anger in the Islamic world, and he warns if leaders do not listen, their problem will increase. A scathing report slamming the government's response to Hurricane Katrina is set to be released Wednesday. But one of the main targets of criticism, Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff, will not testify before a Senate committee today, as was planned. Tara Mergener reports.
The report calls response to Hurricane Katrina a collection of mistakes, misjudgments, lapses, and absurdities, blaming a failure of leadership at every level of government.
The mayor of New Orleans actually contributed to a tremendous amount of misinformation.
But the House Select Committee investigating the response to the storm directed its harshest criticism toward Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff, saying he executed his responsibilities late, ineffectively, or not at all.
I want to be clear. As the Secretary of Homeland Security, I am accountable and accept responsibility for the performance of the entire department, good and bad.
But Chertoff rejects allegations that his agency's focus on terrorism left the country unprepared for a natural disaster.
Do you feel like you've been sort of set up to be the scapegoat, to be
Yes,
the
sir.
fall guy?
Yes, sir. I can't lie to you, but yeah, I feel that way.
Last week, former FEMA Director Michael Brown was also critical of Chertoff during an appearance before a Senate panel.
We cannot stress enough the danger this hurricane poses to Gulf Coast communities.
The report says President Bush was not being fully involved in the process, something the White House denies.
I reject outright the suggestion that President Bush was anything less than fully involved.
And because of a conflict with Senate votes, Chertoff will not appear before the committee today as originally planned. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener.
Americans are spending those gift cards they got for Christmas, and that's helped boost retail sales, which rose faster than expected last month. If you don't count automobiles, retail sales were up by 2.2% in January, the best gain in more than 6 years. Chocolate, cake, and candies are full of it, and one day it may power your car. It's already the fuel for millions of Brazilian drivers. For investors and farmers, sugar is sweet again. With President Bush looking to wean the U.S. off foreign oil, investors are betting big on alternative fuels like ethanol and alcohol derived from sugar and other crops.
Chocolate, cake, and candies are full of it, and one day it may power your car. It's already the fuel for millions of Brazilian drivers. For investors and farmers, sugar is sweet again. With President Bush looking to wean the U.S. off foreign oil, investors are betting big on alternative fuels like ethanol and alcohol derived from sugar and other crops.
There's a global will to get ethanol onto the landscape, basically. Mr. Bush was talking about raising the figures from around about 400 million barrels to 700 million barrels in the next 5 years or so. So that's going to happen regardless, so that's going to create a demand on its own.
Ethanol is brewed much like beer. Sugar or corn are milled and fermented. The alcohol is extracted and mixed with gasoline, creating a cleaner burning fuel. Sugar-producing countries like Brazil have invested heavily in ethanol projects to increase their production of the alternative energy. The Brazilians already convert more than half their sugarcane output to ethanol. Other sugar producers like Thailand also hope to boost ethanol output, as well as sugar prices. Welcome news for farmers like Thailand's Sakorn Chaitali.
This year we got a far better price for sugar. I anticipate the price to rise.
Sugar futures prices are now at 25-year highs. Yet some energy analysts wonder if the rally in sugar prices is justified. They say without government subsidies, making ethanol is not competitive.
Even with oil prices where they are, it's still a more expensive fuel to actually produce. Something like 80% of the energy produced by ethanol is used in making it in the first place. So there's a great deal of time and expense in actually producing it.
Most countries would also need to modify their gas stations to handle the new fuel. But with oil prices high, alternative fuels are becoming a more viable option, as well as one that can offer environmental benefits. Eunice Yoon, CNN, Hong Kong.
The Bourbon Street Casino Hotel in Las Vegas is no more. The building was imploded this morning. Harrah's Entertainment, the world's top casino company, destroyed the building as a part of a plan to redesign and link several nearby Vegas Strip properties. The 166-room, 8-story hotel tower and parking garage was built in 1980. It's been closed since October. File this one under hiding in plain sight. Right there in the palm of one hand, on the tiny screen so many of us carry around these days, cell phone screens and iPod screens, all of them now and can be and often are X-rated. Tom Foreman reports.
3 things Americans generally agree on when it comes to porn. It's improper, it's immoral, and it's impossible for some of us to get enough of it. And in Miami, at the Mobile Adult Content Congress, that's a porn convention, all the talk was about how this business is getting much bigger because porn is getting smaller with the help of these personal video players in mobile phones, iPods, and PDAs. Call it pocket porn.
Oh, it's a really huge topic.
Talk to people about it, they're like, yeah, really want to get access to it.
It's flesh-colored crack. That's all that really is.
Harvey Kaplan, a pocket porn marketer, says for the first time ever, consumers aren't being embarrassed by walking into adult video stores, renting movies in hotels, or even having porn stored on their home computers. This technology puts downloads into the consumer's pocket fast and anonymously.
It's a device where people can download their content, feel safe and secure that no one else is going to gain access to it.
This is huge. Since the video iPod was unveiled in October, Apple says 12 million regular videos have been downloaded on their website. But in the same period, this skin site called Suicide Girls says they saw 10 million downloads, about 1 a second. Some videos are free, some for sale, so it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but how about them apples?
just between you and your little cell phone, you know? Kind of like a marriage made in heaven.
Porn legend Ron Jeremy used to be known only to the late-night adult theater crowd. Not anymore. Pocket porn has him being mobbed.
The market has gotten 10 times bigger, and it's affecting a much different group. Now we have a lot of college kids and young couples that you would not see going to an adult theater.
Certainly, this is terrible news for those who oppose pornography, who say it degrades people and promotes violence. But this trend is undeniably real, it is unsettlingly rapid, and it may be unstoppable. Because some of the biggest communications companies in the world are getting involved, and they're expecting profits that are almost obscene. Tom Foreman, CNN.
Lou Ferrigno no longer turns into a raging green monster when he sees people breaking the law. The former bodybuilder who starred in the 1970s TV show The Incredible Hulk was sworn in Monday night as a reserve deputy in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Still to come on Newscenter 22, our roller coaster weather continues. Jim Nolan will have the latest when Newscenter 22 continues.
There is a place deep in the heart of the Pacific. A place where adventure is born. Jean-Michel Cousteau's Ocean Adventures.
Well, Jim, earlier we had colder temperatures, but as the day went on, the temperatures rose. Will we be able to continue to enjoy these warmer temperatures?
We're going to be having these higher temperatures for the next couple of days, but along with that, there's going to be a chance for rain, ending on about a Thursday night. So, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Let's take a look at our current conditions. Currently, it's sunny outside, 53 degrees, winds coming out of the south at about 16 miles per hour, the humidity at 38%, and the barometric pressure at 30.01 inches and holding steady. Looking at the area temperatures for southern Indiana and Illinois, Washington, 53 degrees and sunny skies. The same goes for parts of Illinois, Olney and Mount Carmel, both at 52 degrees, and Princeton, Indiana, sunny skies and at 55 degrees. Taking a look at the national temperatures map, our cold temperature for today in Butte, Montana at 22 degrees, our hot spot in San Antonio, Texas at 76 degrees. Now taking a look at California, where those forest fires have been breaking out, the firefighters are getting a little bit of a respite now, 60 degrees in the Los Angeles area after those near 80 temperatures for the past couple of days. Looking at the national fronts map, here in New York City, 20 inches of snow still on the ground after all that they received during the weekend. Now this morning, this entire area was covered by a large cell of snow. That is broken up, and it's now all it's left is this very small area that's being pushed out into New England and eventually the Atlantic Ocean. Now all that New York has to worry about are these small little patches of snow coming down from Canada and possibly this lake effect snow moving over to New York within the next couple of days, possibly. As for the western states, this low pressure area is catching some winds and could possibly move into the Indiana and Illinois region by tonight, and if not, then tomorrow, giving us that chance of rain. This high pressure system along the Four Corners area, keeping them from getting a lot of precipitation. That's over the 100th day that they haven't received any precipitation. And moving on into the forecast for tonight, clear skies with a low of 38, winds gusting up to 30 miles per hour. Tomorrow, 30% chance for rain with a high of 55, and tomorrow night, 50% chance for rain with a low of 50. Going into the extended forecast, Thursday, a 70% chance for showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon with a high of 62 and a low of 34. On Friday, partly cloudy skies with a high of 36 and a low of 19 with a slight chance for snow on Friday night. On Saturday, partly cloudy skies with a high of 26 and a low of 13. And Kristen, that's a look at the weather.
Thank you, Jim. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Amy Reef has the highlights from last night's VU win, plus the rest of the day in sports.
On Nova, one gem tells the story of a world lost to time.
This little bee has been trapped in there for millions of years.
Can these tiny prisoners open the door to the unthinkable?
I was astounded at the possibility of DNA being preserved. When are you going to clone extinct organisms?
David Attenborough takes you on a quest for Amber, Jewel of the Earth.
Blazers rally to beat Blue Devils. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Amy Reif. Franz Dorsenville came off the bench to score a career-high 23 points to help lead the Vincennes University Trailblazers past Kaskaskia College 89-77 last night in the physical education complex. VU trailed 39-38 at halftime, only to outscore the Blue Devils 50-39 in the second half. Dorsenville got double-digit support from Sean Smith with 16 points. DeAndre Bird and O.J. Harrison added 12 points respectively. Ahmed Wright scored a game-high 28 points to lead Kaskaskia, which drops to 9-17 with the loss. The Trailblazers improved to 21-5 with the win. VU has another home game on tap Thursday night against arch-rival Wabash Valley College. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. Earlier in the evening, the VU Lady Blazers picked up their 10th win of the season, defeating the Kaskaskia women's team 60-51. Nicole Helfrich paced the Blazer co-eds with 22 points, and Ebony Jenkins tossed in 15. The Lady Blazers will play the Wabash Valley College women's team at 5 o'clock Thursday prior to the men's game. Villanova went inside for the first half and stayed outside in the second to knock off top-ranked Connecticut 69-64 Monday night. Alan Ray keyed the Wildcats' 7-for-9 effort from the three-point range in the second half. Ray had 5 three-pointers and a 22-4 run that gave Villanova the lead for good in its 9th straight victory. The Wildcats, who forced the Huskies into 17 turnovers, also got a lift from center Will Sheridan, who had a double-double with 13 points and 10 rebounds. Mario Chalmers scored 13 points, and visiting Kansas pulled away in the second half to beat Oklahoma State in the Cowboys' first game without Coach Eddie Sutton. The 69-year-old Sutton took a medical leave of absence earlier in the day after being cited for driving under the influence during a traffic accident that landed him in the hospital on Saturday night. Sutton's son, Sean, will coach the Cowboys for the remainder of the season. The two teams had played the first 13 minutes of the second half within 3 points, but Kansas pulled ahead with an 8-point run. Indiana coach Mike Davis is sounding like a man who's about to leave his job. He told reporters yesterday that the Hoosiers need a coach who is one of their own. Davis came to Indiana 6 years ago after Bob Knight was fired. The Hoosiers have lost 5 of their last 6 games and fallen 2.5 games behind the conference-leading Hawkeyes. Notre Dame is looking for their first 2-game winning streak in the Big East Conference this season when they face last-place South Florida tomorrow. Coach Mike Bray says the Irish know they must win if they want to avoid being one of the 4 teams left out of the 12-team Big East tournament. The game pits the league's best offense in Notre Dame against the league's worst offense in South Florida. In the NBA last night, LeBron James made sure San Antonio's winning streak didn't hit double digits. James scored 44 points as the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Spurs 101-87, ending the San Antonio's run at 9 straight wins. James scored 18 of his points in the third quarter alone en route to his 6th 40-plus point game of the season. He also shut down reigning Western Conference Player of the Week Tony Parker, who managed just 4 points. It was one of those somewhat rare nights for the Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe Bryant didn't score a bunch of points, but they still won. Bryant did end up with 23 as the Lakers beat the Utah Jazz 94-88. Lamar Odom had 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists for LA. Bryant missed his first 5 shots in the game and saw his scoring average drop to nearly 35 points per game. Wayne Gretzky sidestepped questions about the gambling investigation that has engulfed him and his wife and insisted that he won't distract the Canadian Olympic team despite a scandal that has shaken all of hockey. Gretzky spoke for just 4.5 minutes in a news conference cut off by a Hockey Canada official when the NHL great repeatedly was asked about the integrity of the game. American Bodie Miller has been disqualified from the Alpine Combined Games today. Miller was taken out of the race for straddling a gate in the first slalom run. Before that, he led the combined by nearly a second over Austrian Benjamin Reich. The U.S. men's curling team is 2-1 at the Turin Games after today's 10-4 win over New Zealand. But the U.S. women's curling team was clobbered by Canada 11-5, dropping the Americans to 0-2. Purdue offensive coordinator Jim Chaney is leaving to become an assistant coach for the St. Louis Rams. It will be his first NFL coaching job. Chaney has been the offensive coordinator for all of Joe Tiller's 9 seasons as coach at Purdue. Slugger Adam Dunn has agreed to a 2-year deal worth $18.5 million with the Cincinnati Reds. The player and the team were scheduled for an arbitration hearing later this week. Dunn will get $7.5 million this season and $10.5 million next year. The club has a $500,000 buyout option on Dunn's $13 million salary for 2008. Dunn was the Reds' last player left in arbitration. And Kristen, that's a look at sports.
Thank you, Amy. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Jeannie Mose visits the Westminster Kennel Club show. Stay with us.
The public is invited to attend Meet Your Legislators on Saturday, February 25th at 9 a.m. in Davis Hall on the Vincennes University campus. The forum will include information from area legislators followed by a question and answer session. Viewers can phone in their questions the day of the show to 812-888-5334 or send your email questions to wvut@vinu.edu. Our live broadcast begins at 9 a.m. The show will be rebroadcast that same day on WVUT at 5 p.m.
Romance is in the air at this year's Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. Well, maybe it's not in the air, but it's on the calendar as the country's foremost dog show and Valentine's Day coincide. Jeannie Mose reports on Four-Legged Love.
Dogs,
come on, take it,
don't appreciate roses on Valentine's Day, but when the Westminster Dog Show and Valentine's Day overlap, we had to ask, has Callie ever been in love, do you think?
Absolutely.
Has Norman ever been in love?
Yes, as a matter of fact, he's in love with my daughter's pointer right now.
Yeah, he's got a girlfriend who lives right down the street. His tail goes like this.
He's a lover to begin with.
I can tell. Look at him, he's coming on already. Maybe we've all seen too many movies. Movies where it's love at first sight or love at first bite.
With your loved one.
But do dogs really fall for each other?
Hey, my big daddy, aren't you? Yes.
Do they fall for us? The author of If Only They Could Speak and The Dog Who Loved Too Much says most dog behaviorists are skeptics.
The romantic, hormones flowing, heart beating, veins pulsing type love, I don't believe they experience that.
But it's hard to draw the line between puppy love and lust.
I'm not that kind of spaniel.
Come on, baby.
So he's a love him, leave him kind of guy?
I'm pretty sure he is. Hello and goodbye.
Dog behaviorists do believe dogs form strong bonds. Norman even cuddles with his main squeeze.
She'll lay down on the bed and he'll kind of spoon her.
And then there was the Great Dane who took great pains to comfort this woman's dying dog.
And she would go every night and she would sit with him. She would clean his ears. She would kiss him all through her mouth.
As for the bond dogs form with their owners, we found this woman inside her dog's cage.
He's going in the ring, so I give him a little massage, and there was no room out there.
Dog behaviorists say 15% of dogs in America have separation anxiety, whipping themselves into a frenzy when their owner leaves. Isis here is an extreme case.
The neighbors, they heard this crash and they came around to the house and they saw all these jagged pieces of glass all covered in blood. And what it was, the dog had gone out the window and cut itself on the glass, but they thought it was a murder, so they called the police.
The dog, by the way, survived.
Some kind of love, that is.
Looks more like the Valentine's Day massacre. Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
And that's all for this evening. Join us again tomorrow. For Amy Reif and Jim Nolan, I'm Kristen Miller. Good night.
This is WVUT Vincennes.